Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. I'm filming this because it's well, maybe even the first time I've ever done this. I certainly don't remember doing it frequently. Rather than repotting an orchid, I'm going to pot it on. Now, in the gardening world, this happens all the time, but in orchids, I would imagine it doesn't. And the main reason it doesn't is because an awful lot of people use pots that are far too big. So the reason they're repotting is because their media is broken down, rather than the plant has actually outgrown the pot. When we potted these 3 Miltonia Sunset pieces, we did it as a sort of experiment, cramming them into the smallest pot possible. Yeah, and it had they have, because there's 3 pieces in there, generated a good root system. Now, the idea now, which was always part of the plan if this original bit worked, was to pot it on. Now, the first thing that's got to happen is it's got to come out of the pot with most of the root ball intact. Otherwise it becomes a repot, doesn't it? So the idea is to lift the whole thing out as a unit. Like that. Yeah? Now let's see what we've got. First of all, that obviously went in mainly bark. There were some air gaps. Not ideal for an oncidium. But quite honestly, I don't remember there being a lot of roots on here. So first of all, a few, not rules, but a few advisories before everybody rushes off and starts doing this. If you're going to pot on, you're going to leave the old media there, in the centre, yeah? So if you think of those store-bought orchids with their plugs in the middle, they're potted on, and the plug causes a problem later. Whereas this, in here, is not going to cause a problem later because it's good media. This original pot was done about 6-7 months ago, so this is still perfectly good media. It's not breaking down, it's almost as new. Orchiata bark is supposed to last 3 or 4 years, yeah? So I'm happy to enclose this media inside some more. Now, I didn't water this deliberately because I want it quite dry. I'm going to tease a little bit out from the bottom. Not much, just enough so that I've got some loose root ends. And hopefully those root ends will grow into the new media at the bottom part of the pot at least. Alright, so we've just got a few loose ends. There's a few loose ends here, just teasing them out, not trying to break the root ball down. Just easing them away so that they're loose. And that's enough, otherwise I'm going to start, the root ball's going to start falling apart basically, and we don't want that. So we'll put that down for a minute. And this is a bit of a drinker, this plant. This plant is drying out incredibly fast. So it's going to get a mix of mainly small bark, with some larger chunks in there. And I'm going to add a reasonable amount of sphagnum moss. Now don't forget the whole root ball isn't in this, just what will effectively be any new roots and any of the existing roots that branch. The roots that are there now are staying put. It's the new extensions of those roots and any brand new ones that come from the top of the plant that are going to go in this. The existing roots are basically wrapped around the outside of what they're that's their bit. There's a fair bit of moss in there. As I say, this plant's been drying out far too quickly. It is a bit of a drinker. So we'll give it what it wants, a more moist medium. I shouldn't need a huge amount. Now I'm going up, that's probably 2 pot sizes, but you can see there's a reasonable increase in pot size there. This is not an air cone pot. But it has good ventilation and feet, so there'll be some airflow around the base of the pot. Now I'm just going to grab a handful of bark only to put in the base. I hope it all doesn't fall out through the holes. Are there any big bits in here I can use? Nope, that'll do. It's just to line the base, nothing more. Actually, there's a couple of big bits fell out of the root ball. We'll stick them in the bottom as well. Why? Don't want to waste them, do we? Right, so what we're after now is still in the centre of the pot, but now you'll see the next thing that's going to happen on this plant is these latest growths that are in bloom are going to produce a new growth. Now it's got room to get some roots in. So first of all, that's not sitting on any media yet. I'm going to have to adjust this until I get it a little bit more, because I'm going to end up pushing down on it. Now, how high is it sitting in the pot now? Yep, I think once I start pushing that down, and already I can see I'm not going to have enough media, so we'll get some more going. Nothing worse than running out halfway through. We'll add some more moss because we've added some more media. I don't need it heavy on the moss, but I'd like a sprinkling, a splattering of moss in amongst whatever the new roots go into. It's not half and half by any means, but heading in that direction. Now what I normally do when I pot is I push the plant over there. First of all, I work out what is going to be the front of the plant. There is no front of the plant. There's 3 plants in here and the new growths are like a third of the way round, so they're evenly spaced. So there is no front. So what I want to do is make sure I've got some media around every part of the plant. So I put some down one side. Now I'm going to push the plant over towards that media and push some more in, and then I'm going to push it back again and push some more in. So I should have some round all of the plant now. I'm just going to check that I have. Yep. Now that's a bit thin there, so we'll push the plant back again and get some more down that bit. Notice this is all going right down the bottom. Getting compacted quite hard. Right, so we got, yeah, I can see media hiding the roots all round the plant now. So I'm happy with that bit, but I'm only about halfway up. The next bit I need to think about is positioning each one of these new growths in a place where the next new growth has got room. This one's a bit close to the edge of the pot, so that's the one that's going to get pushed back a bit. Room for a new growth there. This one, now this one's a bit high. I'm going to try and push it down. And again, get some more media in. That's lowered it, and it's got room for a new growth. And where's my other little one? Now this one, because I've moved those two, this one's now closer to the edge of the pot. So I can get my thumb down in there and push it back. I'm pushing against the roots, yeah, rather than squashing them, if you see what I mean. Now I can get a little bit more in there, not a lot. Right, now I'm going to compact, and I am actually going to push this down quite hard. It's a vigorous root system. It's going to push its way into this in no time at all. Right, and believe it or not, I'm going to need some more media. It's amazing how much you can get in there. Now that I'm at the top of the plant, I'm going to have to use some, I'll quickly dunk some more moss. And normally I would soak it, but if I give it a quick squidge round like that, it takes in the water incredibly quickly, this dry sphagnum. So it soon soaks it up. It's all very well saying it should be soaked for half an hour. After a couple of minutes it doesn't soak in anymore. It can only hold so much water and that's it, that's its lot. It stops absorbing. I am actually amazed how much extra media I've got in here. And if you think how much has gone in there, although it didn't look like a lot, the room that the plant had, if you think of the amount of media that's gone in there, that's now all available for the roots. It wasn't there before, and it is now. So plenty of places for roots to go now. Right, now all I need to do is watch the base of my latest growths and make sure that they've got media right up to them. I'd rather not have any roots exposed, but I don't mind the tops, the very tops of the roots showing. But the next thing that's going to happen is a new growth is going to come out, and I want the roots on those new growths to get straight into something. They will be very close to the edge of the pot, but they will have enough room. Now, roots in the main, it should go straight down in that nice new media. There's a gap there, I can see it. Right, now that one's a little high, but there's not a lot I can do about it. That just happens to be how the three of them grew. This one's relatively low. Although this one looks high, it's not. That's just the aerial roots that pushed out. The main root system is down in the media. But this one is a little high. But nonetheless, the roots are in the media, and we'll see where the next one comes out. So that's it. It's quite full, the pot. When I water this, some of the media may come out over the side of the pot, but the fact that it's got quite a bit of moss in, it probably won't, because the moss sort of holds it all together. So there we go. Put the tag back in, not that I'm ever going to forget this one. So this has gone from a Fusarium infected plant, large plant at the time, came to repot it. Took a couple of old bulbs off, found the Fusarium. So I thought, right, we'll rescue it. And we took the leads off, which was 2 back bulbs with leaves on and a new growth on each piece. 3 new pieces in the smallest pot I could get them in, and that was a bit of a cram. And I think about 7 months later, well, first of all of those new growths bloomed, yeah, quite successfully. These are not bad spikes. There's a 4, 3 and 2 actually, which reflects the size of the new growths actually, roughly speaking. So 4 blooms, 3 blooms and 2 blooms, 2 blooms being on the tiny one. That was the one I didn't even think was going to make it, but it managed to make it and bloom. So that's it. Now the first thing I'm going to do is take that in and give it a flipping good soak, because those roots were dry. Therefore the media in the centre of the pot is dry. Now when you water a pot like this, I would imagine most people, including me in a lot of cases, water around the edge, because that's where you can pour your water. But in this case I need some down the middle as well, yeah, because remember that was in almost pure bark, and some of the roots are still in that old part of the pot. It's not like we've unpotted this, untangled all the roots, and most of the good roots around the outside of the plant. There are some good roots in the middle, so it will need a good soak now, real good soak. And then I'll have to keep my eye on this. This is the new media, this is the new Orchiata bark that dries fast. The moss will help it stop drying quite so fast, but nonetheless it will still dry quickly. So this one will have to be watched. It can be put separate, and it won't take part in the rest of the Oncidium's watering cycle, because they all tend to get done together. This one will probably get done a bit more frequently for a while. So there we go, potting on. And as I said, there's a few, not rules, but advisories. If you're going to enclose old media in the centre of a pot by potting on, make sure it's good enough to last as long as the next repot. The next repot on here will be when the set of new growths grow, yeah, and mature, depending on how fast. This is good media, it should last, yeah. And then the following set of new growths won't have anywhere to go. So that's the time when it will probably get split up again and go back to 3 individual plants, all with their own pot, because they'll have 2 old pseudobulbs which will probably be leafless by then, or at least one of them will, and then it'll have the one that's in bloom now. The next new growth will be matured and probably bloomed, and then the new growth after that will have nowhere to go. So that's the point at which we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4 moving on to a 5th bulb, which is plenty large enough to be self-supporting, and we'll have 3 of them. That's the theory. You can only work on theories. You can plan, and plan based on previous things that have worked okay, and run with it. But the plant will be the final thing that makes up its mind whether it's going to play ball or not, and we shall see how it goes. So that's the continuing story. I believe that this plant has its own little playlist. If it has, I'm going to sneeze. Have I? No. If it's got its own playlist, excuse me, yes I am. If it's got its own playlist, I will add it in there as an extra thing that's happened to this, because this did start its own little series, I believe. So we'll add it in, and that will sort of revitalise the playlist and remind everybody it's there. And for those that are new to the channel, it gives you an opportunity to go back and see the videos that I'm talking about. In other words, the progress of what happened with this plant from the point that we were repotting a good plant and found it had fusarium, and that will bring you back up to date again if you choose to watch the older videos. But at least that gives you a chance, an option. Okay, so that's that one done. Miltonia Sunset revitalised for a while. See you next time.